Is it 5 now?
It is, yep.
Okay.
And we're live.
Okay. Who is with us so far, Kristen?
So, hey Jenny, it's Kristen. So we have Brian with us and Rich and Karen and you and I, and Andy is in the background as well. So
okay, so we're just waiting on Lisa and Sean.
Right.
And Bob.
And I don't know, I think last time Sean had some difficulty getting logged in, so hopefully they can work that out.
Can you see me? Is my thing on?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay. Oh, there's Lisa.
Here comes Lisa.
All right, and I reminded Sean, so he should be all set. No, honey, I'm in the middle of a meeting. Oh, all the time. Yep. Of course. Okay, well, there's enough of us that we can certainly start, and Sean can just jump in when he.
Hi, Lisa here.
Hi, Lisa.
How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Rich, how are you? Rich, are you muted?
Can't hear you, Rich. For some reason, your sound. It doesn't say you're muted, but we can't hear you.
While they're checking on that, this is Andy. I just saw Bob and Sean and just promoted them to panelists from the audience, so they should also be able to unmute as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was wondering how that would, if they'd come in through their links or not. Okay. Sean and Bob, you guys got to unmute yourselves. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Fine.
Good. And Karen, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm having some canine difficulty. My dogs are doing a lot of whining for some reason right now. So my husband's coming to get them and we'll be all set.
We like dogs. They can join. They can be our honorary mascots.
Karen, did you get your a second time at the city council meeting? Has that happened?
My second time to the city council meeting, not yet.
Okay, that'll probably be their next meeting, I'm guessing, and then that's when they'll approve you.
That's my understanding, yes.
So that's fine. You're Sean, did you get to unmute yourself there?
I think I did I?
I can hear you.
Hi.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody.
I can't hear Rich for some reason, but he doesn't appear muted.
Rich, are you there?
He's talking and we can't hear him.
Some issue.
Rich, do you join with audio?
Rich, sometimes you can log off and then log back on, and you might have a better luck with the sound. That's
also, Rich, on the lower left-hand corner where the little mute button is, if you click that arrow up, it should say that you're on computer audio if you're using a computer, or it might be on phone audio if you're using a phone. So you can try checking off one of those boxes.
Yeah, sometimes it gets stuck on my Bluetooth. I don't realize it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rich, if it's okay, while you figure that out, we're gonna get started. And Bob is here. Is that right?
Yeah, he appears to be muted.
Bob, can you unmute?
Yes, I can. I'm here.
There you go. Hi. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Good. Okay, so let's just jump right into the agenda. Or actually, no. Kristen, did you get the minutes out this month? I don't even remember.
Yes, the same day, Jenny. Come on, how could you forget that? It's like it was a monumental thing in our existence.
And so I already forgot about it.
Right? Exactly. Okay. So we circulated minutes, I think, for July and August, and maybe a really old one also. That all went through.
Remember receiving those? Can we
Yes.
vote to accept?
I move that we accept them.
Okay, great.
I second that.
All right, minutes approved. Good job, Kristen.
Thank you.
And then we don't have any guests. Sean, you weren't with us last time, so we'll introduce you to Karen, who's going to be joining us as an official member after the next city council meeting will be her approval. And she was at our meeting last month. So Sean, Karen, Sean.
Hi,
Sean.
Karen. How are you?
Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And I apologize for last month. I told Jenny I lost the date, and that won't happen ever again. I promise everybody. I'm very embarrassed.
Happens to all of us, I think, especially in these times when nobody knows what day it is.
Yeah, Zoom too.
Yes.
A quick backstory for Karen. She raised a son that was hard of hearing. Her experience is that she raised a child with hearing impairment and who's now an adult in college, and she's just looking to volunteer and has that experience. So she's going to be a nice fit with us.
Great.
Okay, so then do we have some updates from you, Bob?
Not many, but just a follow up on some things from last meeting. The Black Cow took down the entrance sign there for the accessible entrance. He was very cooperating. And Middle Street curb cut. I've asked Tony for a cost for that, but Tony's been out for shoulder surgery, and his mom passed away last week.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback on the speaker.
You're a little bit echoey. We have a little bit of Brian's Darth Vader thing going on.
Right, give me a second. Let me try and
Sometimes if the rest of us mute while he's speaking.
Is that any better?
Hey, this is Andy. She's right. It's a good Zoom meeting policy, if you can, to mute yourself when you're not speaking. It helps to prevent the echo.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, Andy. So,
sorry, Bob, just to go back. So you said the Black Cow removed that one-way exit only sign. Is that, that was taken
correct.
care of?
Right. So
Great.
people can get in there very easily now. And the distance to the handicap parking spot, we thought that was a question, but it's not. That's right directly in front of that accessible entrance there, so that is fine. Middle Street curb cut, I've asked Tony about that. He hasn't gotten back to me yet. There was a question from a resident about the Ashland Street sidewalks being replaced, and I sent some pictures out to all of you. I didn't see any issues down there. Anybody have any concerns about that? I believe it was Ashland at Merrimack. No? Okay.
Wasn't able to really take, in what was in the pictures, but I'm hoping someone else had eyes on it. I mean, is it just that it's not done? So it
right.
could be.
It's in progress.
It's in progress, though, right? It's not.
Correct.
It's on the docket.
And bumpy pads and all that, right?
I believe so. I haven't been back by there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
The school that's underway up at the high school, Toppins Lane, etc.
Say that last one again.
Getting the feedback again.
Jenny, I think it's
Jenny,
you.
I think somehow it's you. Sorry.
Yeah,
Jen.
if you can mute when you're not talking.
Yep.
Somehow.
So the safe routes to school, Toppins Lane, the High Street area, that's underway up there. If anybody's been through there, you can see they're moving along quite well on that. Nancy London was in my office today. I was out though. She sent me an email. Let me just pull it up now. She's applying for a grant, and I brought up the sidewalk a little while back to all of you near the new parking garage in front of Pure Bliss. And Nancy says they're going for the next round of funding for the MOD and inspections, and she wanted me to bring it up at the meeting tonight. Upgrades near the parking garage. Mayor thought it was a good idea, and more specifics about what the project would entail. So I probably have to get some details from DPS for that. That's all I have.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, and part of that's on the agenda for the 88 grants, so we'll get to that in just a second. All right, so then we'll go into the agenda. Does that sound about right, Kristen?
Yep, I think so. We have the first item was an accessible swings update.
Yep, so that's just real quick. They are done. They are finally all installed. All the parks have them in both sizes now. And we can just finally be done with that, and that baby is put to bed. So final report on that. Hooray!
Great, yay.
Yeah. And then
so then we have the Aspen school parent portal not fully accessible.
So I discovered that the parent portal that the school system, our district uses, Aspen, isn't compatible with the screen reader, with VoiceOver at least. And I called the superintendent's office. Basically, I spoke to a woman who's going to reach out to IT and who's also going to reach out to Aspen directly, and then get back to me with whatever she finds out. And I'm still waiting to hear back from her. So my goal is that if it isn't something that they can address, it's something I bring to the superintendent's attention more directly, because it needs to be accessible fully. Like it's the parent portal. So I'm just waiting to get some feedback, and hopefully it's something simple that if reported to the company, they can fix, but we'll just wait and see on that. So I wanted to put it on the agenda so it gets brought up, and I'll hopefully have some more info and follow up for next month.
It's certainly no justification, Jenny, but I can see, and I think that Aspen is awful. So it is not a good platform. It's used very infrequently, it seems, with the district. They like to whip it out once a year for the teacher announcements, and then it never gets mentioned ever again. So that's still not an excuse and not a justification, but I'm not an Aspen fan myself, and I have no visual issues.
It doesn't, like, the button for the menu where you have to go to actually get to the areas where the information is.
It's awful.
It's a dead button with VoiceOver on. So you can't actually open the menu to get to any of those files. So that right there is like, you know, there's just no real excuse for that. It has to be fully accessible. So,
right.
And from experience, I can tell you that if there was something that you needed to know, but you went into some meeting with someone at the school and you hadn't seen it, they would say to you, "Oh my goodness, why haven't you seen this? It's been on Aspen." So trust me, you want to be able to access it.
I can tell you guys about Aspen from the teacher's perspective. It was a nightmare when it came in. I'm a retired teacher now. It's going on my third year being retired. But it took so long, and I'm not one of the brightest bulbs when it comes to IT technology, but it just took a long time for savvy teachers, savvy parents. You know, I have had parents who would say, you know, I have degrees in
Right.
computer engineering, and I still can't figure this thing out.
Right.
So
I'm definitely going to keep following up with them until I get some recourse, because it's not a good site in general. I'm going to jump to the last one just because it's kind of a segue with the schools. I had wanted to figure out a way that would be good to collaborate with CPAC. That's the Special Education Parents and what does the C stand for? Do you remember, Kristen?
Commission, or I think coalition or something. Collaborative, one of those happy words that talks about working together.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to me that we've never talked to them or collaborated with them or see what we might be able to do for them or how they could help us. We should probably have some kind of, relationship with them. I did reach out to the two co-chairs, and they'd said that they would set up a phone call with me sometime this week, but then that hasn't happened yet. I tried to follow up with another email, but they didn't get back to me. So again, stuck just waiting on that. And
yeah, I actually have not met them. I think a lot of the CPAC meetings tend to conflict, or used to in the past, conflict with our meeting time for the commission here. And I was able to join the last Zoom CPAC meeting, which was actually my first. And I was impressed with their organization and their thoroughness, and they seem like they're really, they're doing a great job with all that they're doing. So it would be a good collaboration. I think it would be a good connection to make with them.
Yeah, okay. So I'll follow up again and hopefully get
it just occurred to me, it's a Special Education Parent Advisory Council. That's what it is. It's not the collaboration. It's that, yeah. Advisory Council.
Because one of the things that does occur to me is that it's great that they're a group for that, but I'm starting to wonder more and more, because of the issues I run into, what kind of, if any, kind of group there is for parents with disabilities of children in the school system. So that was something I wanted to bring up with them a little bit and see what they think. Do they hear from parents much with disabilities? So, I mean, it was something that's I've been thinking about more and more as I run into challenges. What are other parents doing if they're in similar situations? So I'm just sort of curious about that. But I'll wait and see what kind of conversation I have with them, and then hopefully, again, next month we'll have more on that. So leading us to the MOD grant, which is due in October. And yep, I got an email from Nancy. She was inquiring if, they should try for what we went for last year, or if there was something else that we wanted to talk about. So I did bring up the street by the parking garage, but I couldn't remember the name of it, so I didn't have a lot of details for her. And I'm glad that she touched base with Bob, and the mayor's on board with that idea, because I think that would be a good beneficial spot, given that its relation to transit, especially with the bus system going around town now too. I'm assuming the bus is one of the main stops is there. So basically, Bob, I'd like to hear a little more about it then, what we need to do for that. I mean, is it just the one section on one side, or is it both sides of the street? Because I would definitely like the project to be as complete as possible, considering the whole point. And then how quickly do you think that we can get some semblance of a plan from the city to be able to have Nancy do the application? Is it something that we strictly need to hear from DPS, or is it something that even Andy could weigh in on at all, like with it being a city project? what else can you tell us about that? I'm going to mute myself so I don't get you guys don't get my feedback.
Bob, before you, I also would be curious to know, would that incorporate any crosswalks? I don't know what is really across from that other than that little strip of stores where Interlocks is, but if there would be any crosswalks, would that take into consideration another APS?
There's a good crosswalk by the edge of the garage that crosses over to Interlocks, Horton's yard. It's brand new. It's very nice.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to offer another location. I don't know if there are a lot of people here, but Pentucket Medical is my medical building, and then 222 Merrimack is where my foot doctor is. And I go there on my wheelchair, and I actually go around down by the river because the sidewalk on either side of Merrimack Street between basically downtown, but I live at Boardman, to those facilities is almost impassable on either side of the street. And I don't know, you know, they've done good work to get to the hospital. And it would seem to me that these are medical buildings that they might get some sort of attention. So I'll mute and see what Bob has to say.
So I think Andy can probably speak to the sidewalks down by the Pentucket. I think those might be slated for replacement soon. I could be wrong though. I thought it was somewhere down in the 230, 237 area for Merrimack Street, but back to the parking garage, that would be in front of the Pure Bliss, that would be Merrimack Street also. And the one side along the parking garage would definitely need the improvement. And then the other side of the street, that may be involved with the waterfront project if that ever happens. So I don't know the condition of that one thoroughly.
Yeah, this is Andy. Do you want me to weigh in on that?
Please.
Sorry, and I've just been attending to another matter, so I missed only part of that. But yeah, the parking garage, if I'm missing anything, let me know. But the parking garage project, there was a discussion obviously at the time about what sidewalks to include in that project, what roadway improvements and how far to sort of expand it out from there. And a decision was made to kind of keep it somewhat limited around the scope of the project itself. There was a couple of reasons for that at the time. One of which because there's a dirt parking lot across the street from the garage that New England Development owns, and it's not clear what they were going to be doing with that parcel. So there was a little hesitation about spending money to install a sidewalk and they have it ripped up again for a driveway curb cut, you know, shortly thereafter. So there was a holding off on that. I believe that there's discussions right now, and the mayor had asked about it the other day or a couple weeks ago about the section between the parking garage along Merrimack Street heading towards the downtown and the Green Street parking lot. I think there's some interest in having that section done, but again, that was not included in the garage project, although it was, you know, there was a discussion about how far to take things. And then as Bob said, the waterfront west piece, or the piece on the north side of Merrimack Street, facing the boatyards, across from Pure Bliss, that section, you know, sort of down towards, you know, if you head down towards the kayak place in Michael's, that section, the assumption there is that New England Development will upgrade that as part of their project. Obviously, if you've been following that, it's not clear when that project will proceed or have, you know, the zoning that works for them and the city. So I don't know what the time frame would be for that one. But across the street from that, so where the old sign company there's permitting that's been taking place for a mixed-use building there. My guess is that won't start construction until sometime next year, assuming the economy doesn't dip or anything. But there's plans in there to have a much wider sidewalk and pedestrian connections across there. It'll actually bring the building up to the streetscape, an entirely new building. So it'll look kind of really like you see in the Market Square more. But if you have any other questions, let me know. I'm happy to expand on that. But that's kind of the gist of what I know right now.
Yeah, Andy, so what we're kind of talking about in pictures I sent to the commission was the section from where the parking garage sidewalk ended in front of Pure Bliss that goes down to Market Street. That section there is horrible. Oh yeah, no, I thank you. I agree with that actually. Again, I don't know, I can't remember exactly the reason why the scope of the sidewalk project ended there at the time. But I know that there was discussion, you know, we certainly had a discussion internally. This is going back a number of years at this point, but
when we reviewed the site improvements part of the project, there was discussion with the planning board, there was discussion with the mayor's office, with the Department of Public Services, with the owner's project manager for the project, which is basically a consultant that helps us to manage the contractor and make sure things are kept within budget and so forth. But the bottom line was it was sort of an executive decision made to cut the scope at a certain point, and it didn't take, the agreement was, or the decision was made not to go any further than that Pure Bliss connection there. But I agree with you, that section certainly needs to be upgraded.
Prior to discussion on that, Andy, I mentioned out from the town a bit, heading west, Merrimack Street, like to Pentucket Medical. It's just impassable on both sides of the street. I don't know if anybody heard me.
Yeah, we did. Andy, did you catch that? So the sidewalks further down Merrimack Street?
Yeah, so I understand correctly, you're talking about beyond Route 1 or?
Beyond Route 1, into the north end.
The toll building.
Correct.
Yeah, the old toll building.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's any questions about sidewalks in that area. There's no real development projects that would be stimulating any big improvements there. So I think that would be really a question for the Department of Public Services.
Okay.
The only area on Merrimack Street that I'm aware of, other than obviously there's a repaving project going on, and there was a 4 o'clock meeting today on traffic improvements, and there was a mention of that, that project. Bottom line is the only section of that Merrimack Street whole all the way out to the roundabout that I'm aware of that was any discussion recently about having sidewalk adjustments was when the Merson building, the Kane folks were planning on doing some improvements there, and there was originally a plan to put a sidewalk in there as part of that project. And unfortunately there was some negotiation with the planning board at the time, and that project didn't quite happen. So they did some kind of minimal parking lot upgrades, and that's why you see the concrete, planters that are there instead of sort of a landscape sidewalk. But I don't know of any other sections along there that are planned for upgrades and what the details might be. My guess is that the best person to talk to is Jamie Tucolo, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sandy. So Lisa does bring up a good point in another location, but we don't have a ton of time to kind of, go back and forth on it. So what I would want to, say about the location by the parking garage is we'll definitely look at it as a high yield benefit area because of its relationship to transportation for the city. But access to medical facilities is also something that would be high on their priority list too. So
Jenny, can you refresh my memory for the MOD grants? Isn't it such that we have to prove that the city is willing and able to contribute a certain percentage of the project scope as funding?
There has to be some contribution. It's not a specific percentage or anything like that, but there does have to be, plans in place. Like the city has to basically be saying, we're doing this project. We don't have enough money. Here's what we have. Here's what we need, and here's who's going to benefit from it. And that's basically how the application runs.
So Bob, would we get that information from DPS and, sort of have a scope of work? And is Nancy chasing down those actual numbers from them, or?
So I haven't had time to get back with Nancy yet. I just got back into the office. So I'm sending an email to DPS now, and I can speak with Nancy also on what she has for information to date.
Okay. It might make sense to find out from DPS if those areas of State Street are at all, slated for the next year or so. And vice versa, if that street by the parking garage is slated for any work, which I doubt, but let's find out what might be a more advantageous way to go with which project in terms of what the city will actually be able to put in, because you know, if it's a city project and it's happening, then we'll have a better chance of actually getting the funding. So, so Bob, yeah, just follow up with Nancy and with, I guess Jamie is who you would talk to now.
Jamie and Tony.
And Tony, sure. So, yeah, okay. I mean, I guess we could support either project because they're both beneficial. And I guess it would come down to whichever project the city thinks we have a better shot of winning, you know, maybe after talking to Jamie and Tony, discern that a little bit more.
Okay, any other comments about the MOD grant and that process?
Well, I wanted to ask Jenny about the perennial favorite, the one up at the corner of State and High.
Well, it's a good question. But I
mean, Andy's pretty much saying that that building, the old driving academy there, is going to probably do improvements to that sidewalk. So that kind of probably makes that moot.
This is Andy. I mean, the chicken and egg kind of thing is one of those projects going to happen, and
Sure.
We don't directly control those. So, you know, there might be planned improvements. For instance, the project at the bottom of Market Street and over to the Route 1 off ramp. That section where the sign shop is, but it's unless the developer actually proceeds with the project, they could, you know, wait a year or two, get a continuance on their permit, and depending on what the economy is. So it's not guaranteed by any means the time frame.
Sure.
That also wouldn't extend over to Pure Bliss. That would go from the sign company over, like you said, to...
Correct. It would stop at both of those corners there. It would not go to Pure Bliss.
Right.
I know, and that's also, I mean, in fairness to the, you know, the administration and public services, obviously they have limited funds. You know, they work with the city council on the yearly budget, but at the end of the day, they kind of make, they have to make executive decisions about where to put the funds, you know, as you pointed out, trying to make sure that they're not spending money where a developer might spend money, you know, mitigating a project or improving the sidewalk anyway. So I think the hope obviously is not to spend money in front of the old sign shop because the developer's going to do it, you know, shortly. And then therefore monies could be spent elsewhere. So, you know, again, it's kind of a mixed effort to improve sidewalks over time.
So Andy, related to Lisa's point about State and High Street, the Toppins Lane and High Street, all of the safe routes to school work that's happening now, even though it's several blocks out of the scope, do you think it would be more lucrative for us to apply for that MOD grant at that location? We have sort of a lot of, you know, we spent a couple of meetings the year past and the year before that discussing that particular area and this grant process. Do you have any feedback on that? If it might be lucrative to kind of tie it in and make a connection with those improvements towards the high school, or that's a major thoroughfare?
Yeah, sorry, could you clarify again? You mentioned State Street, which is quite a ways from the high school.
Yeah, I mean, it's right.
I'm
just trying to think in terms of like if we're looking at High Street as big picture and the Toppins Lane, High Street, safe routes, and all the work that's happening there. If you then go however many 5 blocks or however that is down towards State and High, more near the Mall, the Bartlett Mall area and all of that Pond Street. We had talked in the past about an MOD grant application for that area because of the lack of accessibility and safe, you know, crossings from State to High and High to Pond and all of that area. Jenny,
yeah, sorry, just to clarify,
that?
I guess what I was grappling with just was, you know, depending the cost of a project like that. I wasn't sure whether you had a certain ballpark cost in mind, whether you would talk with public services about what kind of cost that would entail going that far out, or doing only a segment between there as opposed to the whole length of that in some ways. So I don't know the particular issues along the way in great detail, but I certainly think that High Street is a main corridor through the city. You know, it's a good connector for a densely populated area of the city, you know, to get to school and otherwise. So to me, it seems like one logical place to do it, but I do not, unfortunately, know, you know, the accessibility issues and the sidewalk segments in great detail. So I'd want to take a look at that in more detail, I guess, before I could weigh in general on that.
Can I ask Andy, though, aside from the Safe Routes to School, I'm actually thinking about the Complete Streets program and how we had, you know, sort of vied for that area as a project for Complete Streets at one point. And it was—
Yeah, I got you. Yep.
Where does that sort of stand today? I mean, in terms of all those projects that didn't get picked but were considered, is that something that, you know, that could potentially will come up again, that we could collaborate with?
Yeah, in terms of the Complete Streets program, I mean, that's basically a state-funded program. The monies are distributed for projects at the local level, obviously. So in this case, we're getting roughly $400,000. We're spending, obviously, some local money as match, but we're basically getting $400,000 of money from the state. Obviously, as you noted, Jenny, that money's going towards the Parker State Street crossing. And part of the reason why that was bumped up in priority is because we knew the timing of Mass DOT doing a crossing of Route 1. They're planning on doing that essentially starting next year. So we're trying to line up with that. There was a heavy focus on safety at that intersection, I know, with the council, at least some of the council members. So that was given a priority, I know. And I know there was some discussion about other sections of High Street. I think what could happen is there certainly could be discussion with, you know, the mayor, our office, you know, the rest of the administration, just trying to figure out what makes sense for the next grant round for Complete Streets or otherwise. Because you have the local source of funds, which are somewhat limited, but we could also apply for state funds. I guess the question is, will there be, you know, will the state want to give us funding a second year, you know, in a row, or will there be, depends on how much money they have. You know, the COVID situation is having an impact on the state budget. So it remains to be seen how much money might be available from a project like that. But generally speaking, you want to show that you can make something shovel ready. You've got design plans ready to go. You've got a good idea of what the cost is, so that if you apply for state money like Complete Streets, you can demonstrate you're able to get that project done in short order. And that's partly what was done with the Parker Street section, because that was already tied in with the rail trail and some design work had already been done. So it was tying into a big safety issue that, at least, you know, to our knowledge, that Route 1 State Street crossing was a big concern and still is. So that's why the focus was put there, was because it's leveraging a complete crossing of State Street and Route 1, which is a big area.
Right, and that makes sense. So I guess I'm wondering if it, you know, is there a project that you can think of that the city's already engaging in, maybe with other state grant money or whatever, that the MOD grant could tie into and maybe expand that project to include, you know, an extra length of sidewalk somewhere or whatever? Because like you said, it's pretty much the same thing with the MOD grant. It's a competitive grant. They want things to be like kind of ready to go and know that the money is going to be spent on that project right away. And they like to see what's going to be a real high yield project in terms of how many people it's going to, you know, effectively help in some form that is related to access and disabilities. So that's what, you know, just, so I think along the same lines as what Kristen was saying with the Safe Routes to School, like it, you know, we have projects happening. Is there something we can sort of piggyback onto and add to, so to speak, with an MOD grant? Because that can be up to $250.
Well, just FYI, I'm not, I mean, other than the rail trail project, obviously, and certain development projects that we review and permit, there aren't any roadway or sideway projects that I'm aware of that we would be directly involved with per se. You know, there's obviously the Route 1 State Street project, like I mentioned, but I think in general, those questions about how to align with other projects that might be planned or underway are probably best coordinated with public services. And you know, whether that be Tony Fernari or Jamie Tucalo, mainly because they have a better idea as they work on the roadway and sidewalk infrastructure budget, you know, each year, and how the state transportation monies come in, what local money is applied towards it, what grant monies come in, what will go on the roads and sidewalks in terms of funding. So our office has only a limited role or involvement with the details of that. So I think you probably get a lot better information by you know, reaching out to or pulling into maybe one of these meetings, someone from public services who could speak to more detail about what they expect to be lined up in the next year or the next 3 years, or and then where, if you're applying for something, it might well align and be better likely to be funded and align with local funds and so forth.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense and kind of falls in line with what I think we're already planning to do in terms of following up with Jamie and Tony. So to all the members then, you know, ideally we can agree on a project to have the city pursue for the grant, but I don't know if, you know, I mean, we certainly can't wait to make a decision until our next meeting, because then that's the grant cycle would be over. So I think it's probably makes the most sense to go with what Nancy's got started with communicating with Bob, and since the mayor's already supportive of that idea, it might be the best way to go. And unless we hear something vastly different from Tony or Jamie, we should just maybe kind of follow what they can put together best for us. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
That's fine. That's great.
I agree.
All right, so Bob, follow up with Tony, Jamie, and then just keep us posted.
I will. I've sent out that email. If I don't hear back from him, I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, I don't think we're even at close to an hour. What time is it?
5:42 p.m.
Not bad. Okay, well that's pretty good. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up?
I saw the swings at Cashman. They look great.
Oh, good. Yay.
And kids were using them.
Good.
Very happy to have them.
Good. Very good. Glad to hear that, because I haven't been down there at all. So I'm really glad that's finally buttoned up.
I lost sight of the Parks Commission meetings. There was some connection with Lacey Reed between us, Jenny, and some of the other sort of parent advocates. I think I might have lost track of when the next Parks Commission meeting was supposed to happen. So I can circle back for next month and find that out, because they were on the agenda with the Parks Commission to discuss the charitable funding for the naming rights of an inclusive playground. And I think Bob joined in on that meeting, and then they never got to it on the agenda, and then the meeting ended abruptly because they lost their quorum, and I don't remember what happened after that. So I can circle back with the Parks Commission and try to get a status update for next meeting.
Okay, that makes sense. That sounds good. Well, then I think if there's nothing else, I think we've done well, and this was a good, productive meeting, and I thank you all for zooming in on this fine, rainy Thursday afternoon.
I think we're actually more productive in these kinds of settings for whatever reason.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, good.
But I can't say I'll miss it when it's time to go back in person. So that's just me.
I'm not a big fan of Zoom overall, because that's what I do all day long, but I don't miss the lighting in the police station room. I will tell you that. Anyway.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you, Andy, for moderating with us, and thanks, Bob, for all your work. And we can adjourn. It is 5:44. I have another meeting bumping up against this one, so you will not see minutes from me tonight. Sad to say, that won't be a repetition, but I will get them out sometime in the next couple of days.
I moved it. We adjourn.
Thank you.
I second that.
Second. Okay.
have Karen's email?
I believe that I do not.
Okay, I'll send it to you then, just so she can get the minutes too.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny.
Yes.
And welcome,
Thank
Karen,
you.
and welcome
Yes.
back again, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Thanks,
to see you.
Bye-bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Have a great night and weekend, everybody. Thanks.
You too.
Likewise.